Julio Iglesias was on track to become a football star and a lawyer, but a twist of fate changed everything. A car accident and a nurse handing him a guitar, unknowingly creating the king of Latin romance. He shattered records, not just in music, but in love. When asked about his thousands of lovers, he replied with a grin. Apparently, they only counted the ones before 1976. They forgot all the rest. Yet behind the fame, the scandals, and the songs, another story waits. 8 children, all bound by the shadow of one man and his impossible legacy. Chábeli. In 1970, at a glamorous party in Madrid, Julio met Isabel Preysler, a young journalist from a wealthy Filipino family. She had no idea how famous he already was, but the fairy tale was fragile. At the wedding, the priest whispered he had never seen a bride look so set. Perhaps Isabel already knew what it meant to marry Julio, to share him with hundreds of other women. Julio himself once admitted he had a fiancée in every one of the 41 Spanish cities he toured. The following year, Isabel gave birth to Maria Isabel, the daughter the world would come to know as Chábeli. She arrived in a family already larger than life. Childhood, however, was far from simple. In 1981, her grandfather was kidnapped by members of the Basque separatist movement. The family was forced to flee to Miami, but Isabel later stayed behind in Spain. Julio was often away, touring the world, and the children were left on their own. As Julio himself admitted, he was not the best father to his older kids. 10 years old, under the watchful eyes of bodyguards, Chábeli learned early that fame could be dangerous, that the world could be as threatening as it was dazzling. As she grew, Chábeli found her voice on television. In the 1990s, she hosted El Show de Chábeli on Univision. Life put her to the test. In Los Angeles, she was in a serious car accident. The vehicle carrying her and her friends flipped over several times. They all survived, but Chábeli was hospitalized with severe injuries. Chábeli was married twice. For a short time, her husband was Ricardo Bofill, the son of the famous architect. In 2001, she married businessman Cristian Fernando Altaba. Their son, Alejandro, was born prematurely in 2002. 2 years later, tragedy struck again. She lost unborn twins in the first trimester. Yet, in 2012, she quietly welcomed her daughter Sofia into the world, keeping the pregnancy away from prying eyes until the last moment. Chábeli's life is not defined by superstardom, nor by the applause of thousands. It is defined by holding her family close, honoring the legacy of a father. Since the 1990s, her presence in the media made her one of the most recognizable faces among Julio Iglesias' children. During his concerts, he would often bring them on stage. Despite that, she has always tried to protect her private life, knowing from experience just how fragile it can be. Julio. Born in 1973, Julio Iglesias Jr. carried not just his father's name, but also his charisma. From the start, comparisons were inevitable. How do you grow up when your very name belongs to a legend? Their father warned his children not to become performers, aware of how ruthless the industry could be. Julio Jr. chose charm. Where his sister sought quiet resilience, he leaned into the spotlight. He studied at Menlo College in California and tried his hand as a host on the Travel Channel. Julio signed an exclusive contract with Ford Models in New York. He worked with photographer Bruce Weber, walked for brands like Versace and Gap. He appeared on Spanish television and pursued a musical career, one that always carried echoes of his father's voice. Julio Iglesias Jr. became a fairly well-known singer, though he was never destined to reach the same level of stardom as his father. Critics heard talent, but not magic. For the son of Julio Iglesias, good was never enough. Yet fame has many faces. Julio Jr. found his in television competitions. In 2008, he entered the Spanish version of The Farm, living under cameras in a fabricated rural world. He went further still, joining Argentina's Dancing with the Stars, even winning Gone Country, a reality show in Nashville. In 2011, he married Belgian model Charisse Verheyert, a marriage that lasted almost a decade. In love, Julio Jr. mirrored the same turbulence. High-profile romances with models and actresses filled tabloids. Behind the glossy magazine covers, Julio Jr. remains a paradox. Too famous to be ordinary, too overshadowed to be extraordinary. A man whose life has been defined not just by who he is, but by who his father was. He is the son who still searches for a melody uniquely his own. Enrique. Enrique Miguel Iglesias Preysler was born in 1975 in Madrid. By the time he came into the world, the Iglesias name was already legendary. His mother, Isabel Preysler, was deeply unhappy. Rumors of Julio's infidelities had reached her even before, yet she waited 9 years before finally deciding on a divorce. After the divorce, Isabel's life became full and eventful. Enrique moved with his family to Miami. He was raised under the watchful eye of his nanny. He attended a prestigious school, but due to his innate shyness, Enrique hardly made any friends. I went to a school for the wealthy in Miami. While my classmates drove Mercedes, I got around in a beat-up car. My father wouldn't give me money, and after my stepmother appeared, his attitude toward me worsened. Enrique gravitated toward music, but he was careful, almost secretive, writing songs in his teens, hidden from family eyes. Julio had other plans, so Enrique began studying business at the University of Miami. At the same time, he started sending his demo tapes to record companies, presenting himself as a Latin artist under the name Enrique Martinez. At 18, Enrique cut all ties with his father for a full 10 years. The reason? Julio didn't want his son to become a singer. "We had a serious fight, and I just walked away without looking back," Enrique recalled. The rift was only fully healed after the birth of Julio's grandchildren. The boy who would become the king of Latin pop was quietly carving his own path. In 1995, that path led to his debut album that quickly became a sensation in Latin America. And by 1997, with the release of Vivir, he had solidified his place in the music world. But crossing into the English-speaking market was another challenge, one he faced with determination, releasing Enrique in 1999 and Escape in 2001, albums that would introduce him to the world beyond Latin America. On the set of the music video for Escape, Enrique met Russian tennis star Anna Kournikova. Their connection was instant, and they have been together ever since. In 2017, the couple welcomed twins Nicholas and Lucy, and in 2020, their daughter Maria was born. Despite the glare of the spotlight, Enrique has worked to keep his family life private, protecting his children from the constant media attention that shadowed his own childhood. Enrique has released over 40 singles and 10 studio albums, which have gone platinum 116 times. Growing up in the shadow of a father whose life was a whirlwind of fame, romance, and relentless tours, he learned early that every success would be measured against Julio's legendary record. And yet, he did not merely inherit a name, he reinvented it, blending his own voice, style, and charisma. Miguel Alejandro. After his divorce, Julio no longer hid his romances. Among his well-known flings were Priscilla Presley, former wife of Elvis, Bond girl Ursula Andress, and even Yolanda Hadid, future mother of supermodels. In 1990, fate brought Julio together with Dutch model Miranda Rijnsburger, 22 years his junior. Miranda later admitted, "I was intimidated by his reputation as a ladies' man, but I fell completely in love." Interestingly, they delayed their wedding until 2010, a full 20 years of preparation. Miranda gave birth to 5 children. Miguel Alejandro, the eldest of Julio's children with Miranda, has largely stayed out of the public eye. Unlike his famous half-siblings from Julio's first marriage, Miguel prefers privacy and a life away from the constant glare of media attention. Once, in an interview with journalists, Julio described Miguel as a reserved, driven, and passionate young man. Miguel has focused on building a stable, grounded life, often revolving around family and business interests rather than fame. Rodrigo. Julio was over the moon when he learned that at 63, he was going to become a father again. Rodrigo Iglesias Rijnsburger, Julio's second son with Miranda, has grown up with one foot in the spotlight and one foot firmly in family life. Rodrigo was born in 1999. Reserved by nature, he has managed to stay out of the media spotlight that follows his last name. He lives in Miami, Though he often visited the family estate in Malaga, Rodrigo keeps his distance from social media, limiting his presence there to a minimum. He inherited from his older brothers a passion for motocross and water sports such as kitesurfing, while also nurturing a deep love for music. An accomplished guitarist, he has said he would like to follow in his father's footsteps, a man he deeply admires and calls his greatest inspiration. Victoria and Cristina. Victoria and Cristina were born in 2001. For many years, they remained almost unknown to the public, spending their childhood and youth away from the cameras, focused on studies, sports, and their personal interests. When they grew older, French photographer Patrick de Marchelier invited them for a photo shoot, and that's how the sisters first appeared on the glossy cover. Their public debut came when both posed for Hola magazine. The twins quickly became objects of fascination and admiration, seen as elegant and refined heirs of the Iglesias legacy. Today, they are active on social media, and there have even been rumors about their modeling careers. Victoria has shown an interest in studying business administration, while Cristina is drawn to law and history. The sisters prefer a healthy lifestyle, practicing fitness, tennis, horseback riding, and running. In 2019, they made their red carpet debut at the Met Gala, stepping confidently into the world of international high society. Guillermo. Guillermo was born around 2007. From the very beginning, his life was carefully shielded from the public eye, a conscious choice by his parents. Not much is known about Guillermo. He loves animals, plays tennis, and enjoys playing the drums. From a young age, he showed a lively interest in music and was incredibly active and creative, continuing the family's musical tradition. The Unrecognized Son. Javier Sanchez was born to Portuguese ballerina Maria Edith Santos, who had a brief romance with Iglesias in the mid-70s. Julio firmly denied paternity and refused to take a DNA test, so Javier resorted to a move worthy of a drama script. With the help of a private detective, he obtained a water bottle that Julio Jr. had used. Experts compared the samples and confirmed Javier and Julio Jr. were indeed brothers. In 2019, a court in Valencia recognized Javier as the son of Julio Iglesias. But later, Spain's Supreme Court overturned the ruling. The fight for recognition continues to this day. The stories of Iglesias' children reflect his many sides: the longing for freedom, the search for identity, the story of a life filled with fame, love, and secrets. Subscribe and join us to discover more untold family stories behind the legends. Thank you for watching.